What's going on, world, and welcome back to the Pursuit of the Good Life podcast, where we talk about how to enhance your career and your relationships. I'm your host, the Kameron Lovelace, not joined by the amazing Dr. Sarah Benson. She's on vacation, or she left me hanging. But it's okay. I want you to get relaxed. Take care of yourself. Self-care is very important. But I do have our first guest on the podcast.
Oh, I didn't know I was
my
first.
brother. Yeah, you the first one, man.
That's exciting.
You reached out first. I was like, oh, well, let's go ahead and knock it out. So let's go. So my brother, through the frats, very successful businessman, well known in these Memphis streets, but getting to be nationally known. My brother D, Desmond Robinson, aka otherwise known by his alias, the Chef D. Arthur, my brother.
What's going on, brother?
How's it going?
I'm amazing.
Appreciate you. So again, publicly, I gotta say thank you for coming to do this because I know you're a busy man.
Oh, it's no problem.
You
as soon as you hit me up, I was like, I got to make this happen.
Man, I appreciate you, man, because I know you all the way in New York. You still in New York?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn.
So you catching Nets games and all that good stuff. Are you cook? So I know you low key private chef. So are you like cooking for Kyrie, KD?
I actually don't have any New York clients, any NBA clients. All of my NBA clients work for other teams. Well, I have one right now. He just got traded to the Hawks. Yeah, so I'm more like for the NBA, I'm more like an off-season chef these days.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, so I definitely wanted to have you on the podcast because you are what I would consider successfully like executed their version of the good life. And really on your own terms, too. I mean, because all of us say, we want to do this, we want to do that. But few people, like, actually know somebody who's actually, like, went out and done it. And it's, like, being rather successful about it from, being, like we said, NBA players, private chefs. I saw you flexed on the ground one time when you cooked for Anita Baker. I think it was.
Yeah.
Was that this last year?
That was last Thanksgiving.
And on top of that, you throwing your own events here every year, Friendsgiving.
Yeah.
People obviously in Memphis know you come back, represent the M. So yeah, definitely wanted to like have you on the podcast, helping people out, especially for those who are aspiring chefs, culinary, that whole market. So,
right.
But I want to start with the first question is what is your version of the good life? Would you say for you?
For me, my version of the good life is being truly happy. Not even happy is not word enough for it. Just having joy.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to do what I want to do for work every day. Being able to go to places I want to go. Being able to spend time with the people I enjoy spending time with.
Mm-hmm.
Being in alignment spiritually. Being physically well. Being financially well. Being surrounded by love. Great friendships. Great family. Great business relationships, just truly just being in a space where I'm content with all of the spaces of my life. Right.
And that's an integral part of the good life for me because, some people, so for me, when I said the good life, it was always like the family dynamic, but a big house, dog, white picket fence, American dream. And I know that was based on my upbringing because my parents got a divorce when I was like 16.
Gotcha.
So it was like I was kind of chasing that picture for myself.
Gotcha.
And so like when I got it, it's like, okay, cool. But now I'm like in the season of like, okay, what's next? Right. So I'm curious as to what kind of led you to that version, and are you closer to achieving that too?
Life just kind of took me in that direction. At one point, I was not the guy who always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was not the guy who always wanted to live all of these different places. Like I was content living in Memphis. I was content, working my way up the ladder at a job and all that kind of stuff. And not to say anything is wrong with that, but that was, what I wanted at one point.
Right.
But I always wanted to be a chef as well. And I tried to go to culinary school. It didn't work out. I tried a lot of different approaches to becoming a chef, and I couldn't afford culinary school. I couldn't afford it a lot of different ways, and so I couldn't start at the bottom as a line cook or a dishwasher and work my way up because I was an adult and I had real bills. So it was like, and it's hard living off of those types of wages. So I just started a catering company accidentally. I just literally started a blog and I catered this one event and I got cheap business cards made and it took off.
Right.
And so as it took off, it just did not stop, and it kept going. And so I got to a place where my life was headed somewhere different than the life that I always thought I wanted. I thought I wanted the life with the big house, the picket fence, the dog, the kids, all of that. And mine is just doing something different. I was even talking to some of my line brothers not too long ago. It's just kind of like I just looked up one day, their lives. I'm going to have dinner with them when I leave here. Or my line brothers, his wife and kids.
Right.
It's interesting how both of us are truly happy, but like our lives are completely different. I just had to realize one day that like, yo, this is not exactly how I thought this would be.
Nah.
But I'm loving it. I looked up, and this is kind of like people are owning homes and having kids and starting family. And I looked up one day, it was like most of my life is on a plane going from one place to another. And
right.
I don't have a house because I would never be there, and all those kind of things. And so, real estate in New York is really, really expensive. So I looked up and I was just kind of like, yo, this is not what I thought this was going to be.
Years ago. Yeah.
Right. But this is okay. This works for me. I'm happy. I'm content. I'm well. I'm taking care of myself. And it's working. Right. And so I looked up one day and realized that my life was different, but I was happy with that.
Good deal. Okay, so take us behind the curtain, because you alluded to it, and I know a little bit of how you started, because I remember we met, I think it was like 2015, 14. It was a minute ago when you did the gentleman's brunch at my alma mater.
At UCA.
Yep, UCA.
I've done that 3 times now.
Right. And did you know Kameron is actually here now? He moved to Memphis.
He's at University of Memphis in student activities, I believe.
Yep. Shout out to Kameron. Yeah. But yeah, we met all those years ago, and I think I've heard a little bit of your story. But take us like behind the curtain on like how you got started. Like, was you cooking up frying eggs when you was 8 years old, and you just like and then you saw and said, hey, there's no black people on Chef Food Network. I'm gonna do that one day. Like, what was? Take us from the humble beginnings of like aspiring to be a chef.
It was truly a situation where I was always kind of fascinated with food. I was always watching my mom cook. I was always fascinated by she just wasn't putting salt, pepper in food. She had a seasoning cabinet full of stuff, and I just was fascinated by like how the combination of all of those different things that she put into this pot made this delicious dish. And so it got to the point where if I was eating ramen noodles, I wouldn't use the seasoning pack. I would go into my mom's pantry, and I'm just putting cumin, coriander, paprika.
What age was this?
Oh, I don't even know. I was young. This was elementary. Wow. This was maybe 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. Like, it started early.
So at the beginning, you was like, okay, yeah, that's not it.
I wasn't a kid that like really enjoyed playing outside. I wasn't very athletic, so I was always in the kitchen under grown folks and grown folks' business. And so I was just watching people cook and assemble food, and everybody in my family can throw down. And so I ain't missed a good meal. And so I'm watching all of these different people put all of these different things into pots and pans and come up with these great dishes, and I wanted to do that. And so it started with, it's as simple as me making ramen noodles and just exploring in the seasoning cabinet, or rather, if my mom made a big dinner and the next day it was leftovers, rather than heating it up in the microwave, I would heat it up on the skillet and play around with it. And so it was just definitely just curiosity.
Right.
And then one day, maybe I was in junior high school at this point, I just realized, people do this for a living. I could do this. And so I became infatuated with the idea of becoming a chef, probably around junior high school. But it just started off as a curiosity. And that was it. Went to high school, went to college. There was not much information about culinary school.
There's not.
Especially I graduated from high school in 2003.
Right.
Phones didn't do what phones did. Like, I didn't even have a cell phone in high school. I didn't get my first cell phone until college.
Who's rocking the Razors probably at that point?
Oh, I'm pre-Razor.
The Nokias?
We had the Nokias that you could go to the mall and switch the faces out.
Oh, man.
But even that wasn't until maybe like my senior year.
Right.
That wasn't like a thing that was like all of high school.
Right.
And so phones, you couldn't just, you didn't have Safari where you could just look up anything on your phone. Guidance counselors, for the most part, were directing you to
college.
4-year college.
Yep.
So I went to the University of Memphis, had an amazing experience there. Don't regret it at all. But after I graduated, it didn't have much of a game plan. And so I literally went to Indeed.com and applied to anything that all you needed was a bachelor's degree. Very quickly got a job that I absolutely hated. I was depressed, man. Like, literally, I tell people all the time, I was living with my parents at the time, and the job was maybe about 25 minutes away. I would take the absolute longest route to work every single day.
Wow.
If I had to be there at 8 and I got to the parking lot at 7:55, I'm sitting in my car for 5 minutes. I'm not giving you any time you didn't pay for. If I brought my lunch, I would eat it in my car, go somewhere to eat it because I don't want to be in this building.
Right.
I would go to spend all week waiting on Friday. When Sunday rolled back around, I was depressed because tomorrow was Monday.
Right.
And so I just got to the point I was like, okay, so this can't be what you're going to do. You have to figure something out. And so at that point, it's 2008, 7, 8, and it's a lot more information about culinary school out there. There are a lot of commercials about it. You have smartphones now where you can just Google things. You have Wi-Fi is all over the place. You don't have to have an Ethernet cord or dial-up. And so information
is more readily available.
Accessible.
Yeah.
And so now I'm doing my own research about culinary school, and I just decided one day that I'm going to save my money, quit this job, and go to culinary school. Told my dad, and I was looking at the Culinary Institute of America in New York. And my dad was like, don't go that far. What's the closest culinary school down here that you want to go to? I'll pay for the application fee. And so I was like, I don't want to go to Nashville. I'll go to Atlanta. So I went to Atlanta for a year, Art Institute of Atlanta. I was only at that school for 1 quarter because it was mad expensive. It was so expensive.
Bruh, arts education, they be charging y'all like
you would think I was trying to be like a lawyer or a doctor. It was like expensive, and not to play down the culinary industry, but you just wouldn't think that it would be quite that expensive.
Right. And would you say the return on the investment of people that graduate?
I can't speak on that because I didn't complete the program,
right.
And I also, now that I've said the name of the school, I don't want to say anything derogatory because they're still accepting students. But I will say that for me, I only went 1 quarter, and I haven't had any other culinary school, and I'm doing just fine. Okay. And I know people who went to culinary school who are not functioning in the field in the capacity in which they desire. So,
right.
But I do know people who went to culinary school who are amazingly brilliant, amazingly talented, and doing phenomenal things. So I think it's a combination of the educational experience and the individual. Those two things combined will make the experience.
Right. And so I know there's probably a whole lot of people listening to this that are where you were right then. Like, I hate my job. Yeah. I've been working at this job for 5+ years. Maybe I've graduated college, got a degree in health education or health or general studies or whatever the case may be, and I don't really know what I want to do. Well, I know what I want to do, but I don't know exactly how to pursue it, or I'm scared,
right,
or whatever that version. And so for you said, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. And so you went to Atlanta. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're okay.
Because I cut off your story because I want to know what happened after the first quarter. And did you come back to Memphis? Did you go to stay in Atlanta? What was that? So
I was in Atlanta, but I was having an amazing time in Atlanta. Like I'm really into
all
things,
nice.
art, and music, and so like literally, I was telling somebody, PJ Morton is a big deal now, but I remember back when you could see PJ Morton for $10 in Atlanta in like a bar and have an amazing show, like a full, one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life was in Atlanta. $10 PJ Morton concert at the back of this bar.
Wow.
And so I was having that type of fun in Atlanta,
right,
and no longer in culinary school. But then my dad called one day and was like, all right, I was working at AT&T, and that's back when only AT&T had the iPhone. It was new, and so like commission checks were
they were nice.
Oh brother, like Sprint, T-Mobile, none of them had the iPhone. Only AT&T. So if you wanted this new great phone, you had to come to us. So new activation, I was making money. And so it got to the point where I was comfortable and I was just kind of having fun in Atlanta. And my dad was like, all right, I know you're having fun and you have a nice job, but you need a career. You need to figure something out. I was like, okay.
So that push.
Yeah. And so I applied to grad school. Last minute, got a graduate assistantship, which means that it was free, and went to LSU for 2 years for my second passion, which was higher education student affairs work. So I was really, really involved in undergrad, and to the point that I was like, oh, I could do this. Like I could be like, an advisor and help student activities and plan events and, student stuff for the rest of my life at the higher education level. And so I went to grad school for that, graduated. And at this point, I'm trying to get all over. Atlanta gave me a little bug of what it's like to be away from home. And now I'm just kind of like, and there's schools everywhere. So I'm applying to schools, Seattle, London, anywhere you can think of. If you have a college, I'm applying. And there was a job at Memphis that somebody told me about. And I was like, I'm not going back home. And so literally the job application, if it closed maybe March 1st at midnight, I literally prayed about it. And something in my spirit was like, apply for this job. So I applied for the job at the University of Memphis. I had an interview for some school in Florida one day, in Memphis the next day. I had and normally I kill interviews. If you give me an interview, I'm gonna get a job.
Okay.
Now, my application might get lost for a long time, and I might not ever get an interview. But if I have the opportunity, my rule was if I have the opportunity to sit before you, I'm leaving here with that job.
Okay.
So I got a job interview with the university, some school in Florida, I forget, and it just wasn't great. My normal philosophy, like killing interviews, that one did not translate. And I was like, okay. Next day, I have a phone interview with the University of Memphis. Probably the best interview of my lifetime. Like, wow. And I'm not even like, I know a few of the people who are interviewing me, but it's not even like that type of nepotism. It's just kind of like I literally have the credentials and I
killed it,
slayed this interview.
Right. Okay.
So of course they offered me an on-campus interview, and I'm just kind of like, God, I don't want this job. God, I don't want to go home. I don't want to go home. I don't want to go home.
Running internally,
fleeing, and I literally went to the on-campus interview, killed it. And I just was like, they're gonna give me this job
that I don't want.
Okay. It's not that I didn't want the job. I didn't want to come home. Yeah. I'm not even opposed to the University of Memphis. It's just like the excitement of being able to live anywhere was kind of in me. But I felt like God kept telling me, you know, I need you to be home for a season. Something's going to happen in that season. And I didn't know what it was. And in my mind, I was thinking like something a little more morbid, like something is going to happen to a family member. So let me be around my loved ones for a while until it's time to go. But it turns out I was here. I came back. I worked at the University of Memphis. Actually really, really loved my job. I really loved my students. But that passion for cooking just would not leave me.
Right.
So I remember I was a counselor, and students would be talking about their problems and talking about stuff, and I'm listening, but I'm also thinking like, I think I'm gonna try this cabbage recipe today. I'm gonna stuff it.
So it's like right brain is really concerned about students, but this cabbage though.
Right.
Was Pinterest a thing at that time? Or
Yeah,
Pinterest was on
I believe
come
so.
Up? So maybe, but I gotta look at.
Back then,
phone.
I was into allrecipes.com. I don't know if Pinterest was the move quite yet.
So you had like the screen up here, and you're like, yeah, I mean, you really need to get your grades together. And it's like, hold on, is that ham hocks?
Listen, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about when I leave here, I'm gonna go to the Kroger right there, and I'm gonna do this tonight.
Right.
And so the food, the chef thing, just would not leave me alone. Even though I was finally content in my workspace.
And let me ask you this: when you were in Atlanta and LSU, was it still like nagging at you?
It was not quite as persistent because when I was in Atlanta, I was having so much fun and I was making really good money, and I was cooking for my friends all the time. So at that point, it was that ability to entertain people through food or show love through food was still prevalent, and that was also during the recession. So a lot of my friends didn't have jobs or were laid off, and so there was just a lot of free times, and people didn't have excess money, and so we potlucked all the time, and so you cooking for your friends all the time, and people are just excited about your food. So I was being fulfilled through that in Atlanta, and also at LSU I was working on a degree. The excitement at that point became I can live anywhere because schools are everywhere, so I'm not limited anymore about where I have to live, and so it was there. But other things kind of sparkled in my immediate view. But then at the point that I'm back in Memphis, I'm working in my profession. I'm not making enough money.
Oh, yeah. No, student affairs, it's a labor of love, as they say.
Listen, you have to love it. You have to love it. I did love it, actually. And my plan was to, okay, the way you move up in this industry, you have your master's, you go get your PhD, and now you're Dr. So-and-so doing whatever at what school. And so that was my plan. And not to diminish that plan, because I have so many friends who do that now, but that was my thing. But I was just sitting there thinking, like, it just would not stop bugging me at that point, the chef thing. And so I ended up talking to a frat brother who was out in L.A., who moved to L.A. to chase his dream of being an actor, and I was just venting to him about it. He was like, I want you to talk to my friend. Her name is Chef Shanita. She's AKA from Spelman. She's out here in LA doing amazing things. She's cooking for all types of stars, cooking for movie sets. And her story is similar to yours. She had a really great corporate job, but just wanted to cook, quit one day, and just started doing her thing. And now she's killing it. And so we set up a time to talk. And that conversation really changed my life. She really inspired me. She was basically like, listen, you don't need a degree. You don't need culinary school. You don't have to go and start washing dishes. If you love food as much as you say you love food, and as much as it sounds like you love food, start cooking everywhere you go. If your friends are watching the game tonight, don't even tell them you're bringing food. Bring something. If somebody invites you to their housewarming, I don't even care if they have it catered. Bring something. bring food everywhere you go. Talk about food everywhere you go. Eventually, I don't know what it'll be, but something will manifest from that.
Right.
And so I got off the phone with her, and I was so inspired. And a friend had an event coming up, and I called him. I was like, yo, can I cater this event? I'll do it free of charge. He was like, I don't have a budget. I'll do it free of charge. I just want the opportunity to just kind of present my food out there. And he was like, absolutely. Nobody's turning away free food.
Mm-hmm. And had he tasted your cooking before?
No.
Oh, so he took a real chance.
I mean, it's free food, and you weren't going to have any food at all. And so it's just kind of like the worst thing that could happen is this free food didn't taste great. But I didn't spend any money.
Right.
You know, it wouldn't have affected his event. But he took a risk. And I made chicken lasagna cupcakes, and I took them to the event, and I got some cheap Vistaprint business cards made, and I had a fake Tumblr page that I was kind of staging as a website, and it took off. People believed that it was a catering company. I don't even know if my vision was for it to be a catering company as much as it was for it to be a blog, but people were just kind of like, oh, can you cater my baby shower or my bridal shower or my this or my that? And it just took off. And one event turned to 2, turned to 10, turned to 20. And it got to a point where the venues started becoming more high caliber. So now you needed insurance.
Right.
So I had to figure that out. And so to have insurance, you have to have a business license. So now I have to figure that out. And you can't just cook this stuff out of your home. So now I have to find a commercial kitchen. So literally, I kind of grew into it. It was not like I wish I could say that I had this elaborate business plan
system,
and entrepreneurship classes. It was like I wanted to cook. I had an opportunity. I did well at that opportunity, and that opportunity created other opportunities. And because of those other opportunities, I had to continue to grow.
And that's amazing, because that sounds like, so I think where a lot of people get caught up is that they get to this place where they have the idea and then they just ruminate on it. They just think about it. They start, drawing their vision boards. They start
cutting stuff tearing up magazines,
drawing their stuff, talking to all these people and all this good stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but I think a real difference in what I'm hearing from you is that you went from idea to execution quickly. Like you went from that conversation with that chef in LA to, all right, I'm gonna do this. What do I need to do? The next thing that came up, the event. Let's go for it. Let's not even think about it. Let's go for it. What I'm going to cook. Boom. Let's do it. Let's give it a shot. And you're not. And it sounded like there's no fear of failure in that too, or was there?
I'm not going to say there was no fear of failure. I think there was a greater fear of unhappiness. There was a greater fear of, I know what it felt like to go to a job every day that you absolutely despise. And then it was a sales job at that. And so they had this whiteboard and every person's name up there. And when you didn't sell, they told you what your standing was. And if you didn't sell a certain amount in a certain time, you were on the chopping block. And just going to that every day. And then the stuff we were selling wasn't even right. I can't say too much because it'll give the company away, but it was literally you're not feeling good about what you're selling to the community that you're selling it to, and they're constantly reminding you and reprimanding you, and it's it was miserable. And so for me, it was more than a fear of failure. It was, a fear of unhappiness. At that point, I have a master's degree in higher education, and there's schools everywhere, and I'm good at that. So worst case scenario, I can
go to another school.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, and not even make it seem like that's a bad situation, but I have something to fall back on.
Right.
And so with that in my mind, and then I also have, it helps to be good to people because I have supportive family, I have supportive friends, I have people who really want to see me win. And when you have people who are intentional about supporting you, that also kind of boosts your confidence a little bit.
that. Would you call it a community? Really,
I would call it a community. I have some people I knew that I would never be homeless. I might not have my own technical address. I might be sleeping on somebody's couch, but I will always have somewhere to lay my head at night. I couldn't tell. I remember. Eventually, it got to the point. So I was working at the University of Memphis. Started the catering company. It started to boom.
Right.
I wanted to invest in the catering company, but I didn't want to get investors at the time. So I needed another job that paid me more money. So that I continued to sow into my stuff. And so eventually I became a trainer at the Med, which is now Regional One Health. Okay. And I was making decent money there. And so I'm catering on the weekends, and I'm, all of my check is going back into catering supplies. At that point, I had moved out of my parents' house. I had my own apartment, but it's catering stuff all over my apartment. My rule back then was like, if you want to be my friend or you want to date me and you want to come kick it in my house, I'm gonna be rolling collard green egg rolls, and you're gonna be sitting next to a Schaefer dish, and you just got to be cool with it.
Right.
So I knew that, like, eventually after that, you know, I got to a point where the catering company was growing at such a rate, and my full-time job was draining me at such a rate that I recognized that I couldn't do both. So I went to my boss at the time and I asked her, could I go part-time? And she said no. And so then
This is
the Med.
Okay.
She said no. Because it was one night I was in the kitchen. It was like 2:00 in the morning. It was snowing outside. We had cooked all of this food, and I was dog tired. And it just felt like my body was about to give out. And I had to take the trash out. Trash bag burst. It was just like one of those extra dramatic TV moments where you just kind of like, all right, God, I can't do this like this anymore. And it was just kind of like leap. I just felt something say leap. So rather than leaping, I tried to get a safety net, asked the boss, could I go part-time? She says no. Thought about it for maybe a week or two more, and I went back and I quit.
Wow.
And before I quit, I told my parents, literally, I can't guarantee you that my credit score won't drop. I can't guarantee you what's about to happen. What I will tell you is that I will not starve. I will not be homeless. And though tomorrow's not promised, I don't think I'm going to die.
Straight up.
Anything else might happen on this journey. And it took a while for my dad in particular to brace that. My mom was, you know, do what makes you happy, leap, da-da-da. But my dad is more like, you know, you're a man, you have to take care of yourself, work your way up the ladder. You have a really good job. Is there any way you can keep this really good job? So it was harder for him to grasp that concept originally, but eventually he was like, all right.
But let me ask you this, what helped you overcome that? Because that's, a lot of people get stuck there too. Their family from, I don't know what background your family comes from, but, you know, some people, their kids are the first ones to go to college or the first ones to get the master's degree,
right.
The first ones to get that corporate job, and, you know, their family, like, you know, my kids will stand on my shoulder. I'm going to work my fingers to the bone so my kids can have a better life and better opportunity. And so they see that college. They see that through corporate ladder. No shame to the parents
at all.
But
that's a very baby boomer thing.
Exactly. That's just how they see it. So I'm curious as to how you particularly like overcame that.
Well, I think at that point I had already proven myself to make consistent good decisions. Boom. Which allowed them to kind of, well, first I was grown, so I was going to do what I wanted to do anyway. But second,
facts.
Their support was still very important, and I think I got that because I had a track record of when I moved to Atlanta. I remember I was an average student in high school, but I wasn't like bad average. I was like, you know, a B-C student. And so I remember I was like applying to colleges and stuff on my own, and my dad came up to the school one day without me knowing it and talked to the guidance counselor, and the guidance counselor basically told him that without this certain GPA, which was like really, really high, that I would probably have to go to community college and I couldn't go to University of Memphis. And I was kind of like, well, I mean, I already applied and got in. And so I've always been kind of taking the initiative to do whatever it is I want to do.
Gotcha.
And so I had you know, when I wanted to move to Atlanta, it was like, I'm going. And it worked out. When I was going to grad school at LSU, I'm going, and you don't have to pay for it. And it worked out. And so, you know, at that point, when I tell you I'm about to quit my job, and you've seen me make really good decisions so far, they just kind of be like, all right, we trust that you got this, and we trust at the point that you don't have this,
you'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out, or you'll seek the help that you need to seek. But, you know,
right.
All right.
Okay. Now, there's something that you said, that key in your story that you said that a lot of people don't do, and that's why their business isn't growing, is that you said that instead of like making this money and then balling out, I'm gonna buy a Benz, I'm gonna buy my house, I'm gonna buy, you know, Gucci bag, I'm gonna pay for my this, that, and the third. You said I'm gonna invest that back into my business. What in you made sure that was so important to invest the money that you were making back into your business? Like, what was it like somebody like advised you that way, or was it just something that just said, hey, I need to make sure to keep growing this?
For me, I think what I love most about food is the presentation of it all. And to present it well, you need stuff, particularly in catering.
Oh yeah. In events?
Yeah, you can't just put a raggedy wrinkled tablecloth on the table and put the food out there. Like, the way that it's presented matters. And so to present it well, I registered that I needed equipment, because at this point I'm eyeballing other catering companies, and at this point Instagram's a thing, so you can literally see what people are doing, and I was like, I want my work to look like that, and so you have to buy the stuff. And so one of my friends is really into fashion, and his joke is in real time, he'd be like, I buy clothes with my money, you buy seasonings with yours. And so, like, literally, that's what my money was going to. I was buying new seasonings. I was buying new Schaefer dishes. I literally bought, like, this big industrial-looking shelving rack that is only in, like, warehouses and stuff like that, and put it in my living room for storage, like, in the middle. Like, so if you came to kick it in my house, it was a regular apartment with, you know, a sectional and nice furniture and and catering equipment.
Just everything, the whole shebang.
Yeah. And so I think it was more so my love for the way things are presented. I would like to say that I was smart enough to know that I needed to be sewing into my thing. But for me, it was just kind of like, I want this to look pretty. I want, when I do this event next Saturday, I want them to be like wowed by it. And so that costs money.
Man, that was so smart. And what were you like late 20s, early 30s at this point? Like, what was the...
This is like, I moved back to Memphis at 25. So at this point, we're in like 26, 27.
So at that point, you said, okay, yeah, it's time to grow this. So, like, all that kind of was like...
Because you have to remember, I wasn't intentionally starting a business. I just wanted to be in the world of food and couldn't figure out how. And so I thought I was starting a blog.
So this wasn't even intentional. Wow.
It became intentional as it was happening, but it started off as just like, I just want to be in this world. I want to be in this world somehow, and I can't afford culinary school, and I can't start as a line cook because I can't afford my bills that way. Right. And it took off. It just took off.
Man. So what point was you like, okay, yeah, I'm the man right now. Like, look, I'm Chef D. Arthur. I'm like, what point was that? Was that like...
That took a long time. It's still, I'm still internalizing that, because literally my business card at first had aspiring chef. I refused to put chef on my card back then because I had so much respect for the industry. Yeah. And in my mind at the time, if you didn't go to culinary school, then you weren't a chef. Now that I am a chef, I know that so many people did go to culinary school. Some people literally started as a dishwasher and just studied under amazing people. Right. Other people just did. It's so much information out there now on YouTube, Google, and so many people just dug into the research, and now they're just bum. And so there are a lot of different paths to it. But at the time, I respected it so much, and like, some people had to literally persuade me. People started calling me chef long before I embraced the title.
Wow, how long did it take you? Like, where you going? Because you said you started.
I think I might have been a year in before somebody was like, "Take that off your card." People are paying you money to cater their events.
Good money.
They're not catering. They're not paying. It did start off as good money. That's important to note. That when I first started, I was doing stuff for either free sometimes or really, really cheap, because you have to build a clientele base. I think people want to start off making bank, and no, you have to take some L's. You have to take some L's.
And those L's don't have to be lost; they can be learning experiences.
Yeah.
And I think
absolutely.
Like I'll speak as a speaker and a trainer, is like getting those reps and getting those experiences and getting those opportunities, because you learn from so much from doing it, and you learn how to. I'll speak for the speaker, and you learn how to cater to different audiences, and I think that kind of applies there. You learn how to cater, like, okay, yeah, the Hispanics over here don't like fried chicken. I got to learn how to diversify and make a enchilada that they're gonna like, and so like learning that, and then obviously you taking pictures of everything, so you getting the experience. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, let's do it. Boom, boom, boom. Look on my website. Look on my Tumblr. So, and I think a lot of people obviously want to make a 6-figure business in their first year, just straight out the gate.
You know, I'm 8 years in. I'm still, we're, a 6-figure business, but I'm still trying to get to a place where I'm just kind of like, all right, we're there.
Right.
I don't know if that place exists really, because I could definitely continue to elevate, but even in elevation, I'm always still like there. But it's definitely started as, what I did was I went and researched maybe about 10 Memphis catering companies that I thought were really good, and I aspired to be on their level, and I made sure that my price point was right beneath theirs. And then not to necessarily, at that point, I wasn't even on the level to be a competitor with them. But at that point, just to make sure that I knew that, like, if somebody was reaching out to several caterers, just me as a new caterer, that I was kind of positioned correctly beneath the people who were really good. Because at this point, I don't want to be charging the same prices as them, and I couldn't even produce half of what they could produce. I didn't have the staff, I didn't have the resources, and so I started a little bit under what I considered to be good, and that got me a lot of gigs. And what happens is, if you have 40 people in the room and you perform well,
oh man,
that's 40 people who love your food and talk about your food and take your card and follow you on Instagram and tell a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. And then one of those friends will call you. And then they have an event and there's 75 people at that event and you perform well at that event. Now there's 75 people singing your praises. But that will never happen if you're not willing to start at nothing.
Right. Because it takes, let me tell you something. I won't say anybody. A lot of people can cook for their family, but not everybody can produce in mass. I know I can't produce the same quality of my best dish is lasagna, but I know I can't cook that same lasagna
for 200 people.
For 200 people. I know my limitations.
Right.
So it takes real skill. I know.
It took time to develop that skill.
So man, that's wild. So when did you say? Tell us about your first major. Well, I know you seem like a humble guy. You look at all the events as a major event, but when was the first major event, personal chef? Was it personal chef or was it an event for I don't know, FedEx or some kind of
it's hard to determine what major, because a lot of
major
different major things happen. I will say the first wedding I ever catered was major to me, because that was you're doing a wedding. Weddings are big deals to people. You can't mess up somebody's wedding. And it was one of my chapter brothers and his wife were getting married, and they trusted me. They really trusted me, and somebody giving you their special day like that, and you know that you're a novice, but you also know that you're capable, but you have to really prepare to make sure that capability shows itself. So I was stressed to make sure I delivered, and to this day they'll be like, oh, we started it.
They take credit.
But I did a really good job. But it took a lot. I think if whatever they paid me for their wedding, it was not nearly as much as people pay for weddings now, but whatever they paid for their wedding, I probably didn't make any profit. I used every single cent of it to make sure
that their wedding was awesome, that
I delivered. I'm still in my apartment at this point, so you have to keep food a certain temperature, and so I couldn't afford all of these. I didn't even know about all of the different things at that time, so I literally bought all of these pizza bags.
Wow!
To keep the food,
the black joints with
the red pizza cup, and they flap up to keep your pizza hot.
Wow!
I had those all over my couch, living room, everywhere.
Wow! So
yeah,
you out here doing it. So when did you get to the point to where okay, I'm making some pretty good money, more? Did it ever when I don't want to count your pockets or anything, but when it got to the point to where I'm making the same amount as I was making in University of Memphis or
in recent. Well, here's the thing. It was the money was always hard to gauge, because at the point that as my brand was growing and my notoriety was growing, so was what it took to deliver. And so now you need staff people, and now you need a commercial kitchen, and now you have to have insurance, and now these staff people have to wear something that looks uniform, and now you need a U-Haul versus your truck. And so the more it got to a point where I was making more money, but I also was putting out more money, and so it felt like I'm still kind of broke. And so according to my accountant, yes, I made more money than I made at the University of Memphis, but it also most of that money went back into
investing back in your business.
Investing back in the business. I don't think I felt like I was making real money until I got my first NBA gig.
Now, when you say NBA gig, you talking about just one-on-ones, or are you talking about the whole team?
No, one-on-one.
Okay.
So gotcha. I quit my job, moved out. I had a really nice spot downtown, moved out of there, got a roommate, and was just catering full time in Memphis for a year. And that year was rough. Again, my brand.
Was you by yourself, or you was just now getting your staff?
I had staff at that point, but my staff is kind of contract staff, so they come in as needed. So I still do a lot of stuff by myself, and then they come in right before the event.
Yeah, you handle everything.
Yeah, not anymore, but back then I was, and my business is growing, my notoriety is growing. I'm getting big contracts, but every big contract, it takes big money to produce, and so I'm still broke, and I'm struggling, and I'm just kind of like, God, was this the move? Did I leap prematurely? Literally, I'm eating catering leftovers for dinner. Sometimes I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna make rent next month, but literally, it always worked out.
Right.
It never not worked out. I'm sometimes still in awe at how it all worked out. And so then one day I get a call from I get an email, and it doesn't say who it is. It was this lady who was like, I want you to cook for me and my family for the summer. And I'm just kind of like, Okay. But at that point in Memphis, my prices had gone up a little bit, and I had started doing personal chef work, and I got used to people telling me that I was too expensive. And so I told her my prices, and I'm waiting for her to email me back the normal, it's too expensive. And she was like, okay, cool. So we get on the phone.
Okay.
She's like, oh, it's for me, my husband, 2 kids, and a nanny. And I was like, nanny? You
got money. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Nanny says, okay.
And so she tells me her name, and I tell her my price, and she pays in
Everything
full right
up front.
there up front. And I'm just kind of like, who is this? So randomly, my friends are back in my apartment. It's the summertime. They're in the pool. I come home. I get in the pool with them, and I'm telling one of my homeboys about it. Like, this girl called me today, and she wants me to be the chef for her family this summer, and she works at that beauty shop that I catered at for one of your friends one time. He was like, well, first of all, she doesn't work at the beauty shop, she owns it, and she owns it because her husband is Thaddeus Young of the Brooklyn Nets. And I'm just kind of like,
who? What?
So had fully agreed to be their chef, not knowing who he was at all.
Right.
Fell in my lap. Or divinely fell in my lap.
Right.
Was their chef for the summer, and towards the end of the summer, they had started asking me, do you know any chefs in New York? Because we're going to need a chef up there. And so I knew a couple of people up there that I had planned on recommending, but my friends were just kind of like, you should just go to New York. You should just go to New York. And in my mind, at that time, I thought that I would always have to live in Memphis because I had a company in Memphis, and I just couldn't envision. At that point, I didn't even have
your exposure.
Vision enough
your exposure had
to
not
dream
opened that
of
up.
a life where my company was one place and I was somewhere else, and they both worked. But I was tipsy one night and got
Bought a plane ticket.
No, I was tipsy one night and I texted her and I was like, y'all still need a chef in New York? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, I mean, I'm down. And she was like, okay, I'll talk to Dad about it. And I talked to Dad about it. He was like, give me a proposal. I didn't just give him a piece of paper. I gave him a very, very, very thorough proposal. Like, it was like elaborately designed. Like, I went to Kinko's. It was like a booklet. It had his family in it. It had menu plans in it. It had like, I had to request the salary. I didn't know what to request. So I literally requested the salary I wanted, but I like gave very detailed information as to why I was requesting. It was very thorough.
Right.
And so I gave them the proposal, didn't hear back from a week, and now I'm getting stressed out. Like, God, I want this so bad. I want this so bad. And she called me. I was like, can you come over to the house? Went over there, and the first thing Thad said to me was just kind of like, bruh, that proposal just got you a job. He was like, normally people just give me a sheet of paper, and that's it. He was like, that proposal just got you a job. And he was like, your salary? Okay, that'll work. He was like, do you want it all right now, or do you want me to pay you monthly, bi-weekly? And I was like, bro, you about to give me a whole
salary up front?
Up front, and I was fortunately I was smart enough to be like,
hold on,
monthly.
Cool, okay.
Divide that by 12, homie.
Right.
But yeah, and off to New York I went.
Off to New York.
And just so happened that my cousin was unemployed at the time, and she was serving for me, and so she just kind of stepped up in the catering company. And Chef Phillip, who does amazing things in Memphis now with his own catering company and his own cafe, was the executive chef at the time. So between the two of them in Memphis holding it down and me in New York, it worked out.
Boom. Wow. And that speaks to kind of like this concept that I heard from a different interview, is that you don't want hockey stick growth, because hockey stick growth you can't really predict. It's just like it's an anomaly, but you want like stair growth. So like you go up and then you plateau, but you know how to maintain that level and then go up, and then maybe you plateau
because you need to be prepared,
right? But you know how to maintain and not go back down,
because it's a really, really bad thing when you are ill prepared for a platform, and so now your poor performance is highly exposed.
Man, let's talk about that, because we just talked about character last week and how that was the foundation. But yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah.
But man, this is good. I don't know if y'all get anything out of this, but I know I am. But yeah, but I don't want to take too much more of your time. We're about to run out of time. But tell us where you see, like, what is the next phase of the good life for your catering company, and like, what are some things that you want to accomplish going forward?
I'm finally in a space now where my brand is solid, and not just in Memphis. It's like solid nationally, and so I can enter certain conversations a little differently, and I can request a little more money for things. I can go to companies and ask for things, and so right now I'm building the content that I want to build. I'm building, working on some blogging that I'm really, really excited about, and I get to do it how I want to do it. Friendsgiving, it started. It's just an event me and my friends did here in Memphis 2 years ago. Last year We went on tour with it, went to Houston and New York and Memphis,
Mm-hmm.
sold out in each city. And so now we're working on expanding that next year to LA, New York, Atlanta. We're considering Nashville, Houston again. New Orleans. So we are working, and then Memphis hasn't stopped. The catering company hasn't stopped. We've moved back from weddings, and we're doing more corporate events,
Right.
Non-profit events. That's why I'm in town this weekend. We're doing Mixology tomorrow for Volunteer Odyssey, like I told you.
Right.
And so doing a lot of traveling. People are literally paying for a plane. It's fascinating to me that people are willing to fly me out to cook for something in Miami when there are all of these chefs in Miami. Like, it would be much cheaper to just hire a Miami chef, and somebody's like paying for a plane ticket and a hotel. So I'm finally in that place, which is my happy place, because I like traveling, I like cooking. I got bored cooking for the same people all the time. I got bored cooking the same menu all the time with catering. So this way, it allows me to kind of be a lot of places, meet a lot of different people, see people's facial expression for the first time when they eat my food, new people. And so I appreciate that. And so now it's just about creating what I want to creating the content I want to creating the type of events I would like to attend, and maximizing on the brand that I have.
Right. Name drop a couple of your high profile clients for the people. Just take your time in the sunshine
I cooked,
for a second.
For Anita Baker for
Boom.
Thanksgiving a couple of years back. She was in Memphis for concert, and I was cool being good to people, man. I would like to say that all of this is because I'm just super amazing. But a homeboy of mine from when I lived in Atlanta, I only lived in Atlanta a year, back in 2008. She was in Memphis last year for concert. She was like, I know you're a chef in Memphis. Anita Baker has 2 shows in Memphis, and the whole squad is going to be there for Thanksgiving. Can you please cook Thanksgiving for her? To know me is to know that I love old head music. If you give me some Anita Baker, some Tony Braxton, I'm in heaven. So you calling me, begging me?
Right.
I don't want to say the word beg, but like literally, like, bro, please do this for me. I need you. I need to come through for my boss. Make this happen. I'm just like, Anita Baker needs me. Anita Baker needs me. She was one. Danny Glover was here for some type of conference a couple of years back. I got to cook for him. They had me cooking for the whole conference though, so he had my food, but I didn't get to meet him. But my staff did. Okay. Thaddeus Young, he was my NBA client for 2 years. Kind of started the celebrity thing, which I really, really will always value him for that.
Right.
Right now, I'm still Scal Labasseur's chef. So he went to high school in Memphis, but he's played for Sacramento, Portland, and now he's with the Hawks. And so I work with him a lot. I just cooked for him a couple of weeks ago, and I'll be with him this summer again. Yeah. But honestly, people say that, I am a celebrity chef technically because I have celebrity clients. But, what appeals to me most about it is just to be able to come and go as I please. You don't have to be a celebrity, but if you can afford to fly me out to LA to cook for you and pay what I need to be paid, I don't need you to be a celebrity. All that matters. I'm just happy that I get to go to different cities, different kitchens, meet different people, and give them my food and watch them enjoy it. That makes me happy.
So how do you handle it when people from the Memphis say, "Hey, Desmond, you remember people you grew up with? Be like, hey, can you come do the thing?" And they're like, "Whoa."
Yeah, I still haven't got used to that. I went to church Sunday, and
don't tell me they asked you though.
No, they didn't ask me to do anything. But like the pastor literally, like, and she's a friend of mine, but she ran up to me and gave me a hug. Like, you were about to do a whole sermon, and she just stopped what she was doing to come hug me. And then after the service, people are just kind of like introducing me to their kids. He's a celebrity. Oh, he's that thing. My friends are forcing me to become more comfortable with it. Like, bro, it's a thing. It's the thing. You are, just say it with me.
Shout out to
you are a celebrity chef. But it kind of makes me cringe a little bit.
Right.
Like, only time I'll say that I'm a celebrity chef is if it's a platform like this where I know it's going to inspire somebody, or if I'm talking to some kids. But I don't just be walking around here saying that. It's on my Instagram just in case a brand is looking at it and want to, throw me some dollars to do something. But like, it's not at the top of my vocabulary.
Man, some of the people ain't humble like that though, Des.
It's cringy. It's so cringy for me, and like I'm literally having to condition myself to embrace it and just and you are. I'm working on, like, I'll just be sitting there and be like, okay. At one point, Anita Baker's team called me to come to Houston to cook for something, but and I had a Food Network interview earlier that day, and something else was going on to the point that I could not go to Houston for Anita Baker. And I told my mom about it. She was like, so you just at the place in your life now where you can just turn Anita Baker down?
Wow.
And I'm just kind of like, I ain't think about it like that, but because that's not what it was for me. Like, I would have much rather have done it all, but schedule didn't permit, and I had to, and I guess I am. And so that's still a hard pill to swallow, but that's what it is.
Okay. Go on, flex on them one time. Take your dance in the sunshine. But if you had to give some people some advice for the aspiring chefs, for the ones who don't know necessarily where to start, and you done dropped plenty gems, so don't feel like you got to revisit all that. But if you could give them something to go get started.
So I'm not even going to limit this advice to aspiring chefs or even entrepreneurs. I'm going to give this to anybody who has a dream. I did a program called Leadership years ago when I was working at the University of Memphis, and part of their motto or vision statement, or one of the things people say out loud, was you have to have a healthy disregard for the impossible. And to me that meant that, so an unhealthy disregard for the impossible is like, I want to be a doctor, but I suck at math and science. That's not really healthy. You're probably not going to be a doctor.
Okay.
A healthy disregard for the impossible to say is that this thing that I'm really, really good at and I'm really, really passionate about seems intangible, but it's not. So I'm going to disregard all of the things that might present themselves as obstacles and still try to get to that destination anyway. And I think the people who do that are the people who make it. There's so many talented people in Memphis who can sing. You might think that you sing better than other people who are famous. You might think that you deserve more than other people who already have it. But the difference between them and you is that somebody decided that they were going to sing and did not stop until they were singing. And so whatever that thing is, if you're sure that you're good at it, if you're sure that that's something that you're supposed to be doing, and that's a really, really important key, because just because you're good at it doesn't mean that you're supposed to be doing it, at least not professionally. But if you're sure, if everything in your body and your soul and your spirit and God and whoever you're higher about, whatever, if all of those things are telling you you absolutely need to be doing this, then disregard any obstacle and figure out how to do it. And once you commit yourself in an act of faith to making that first step, something appears and now you're on the second step, and something appears and now you're on the third step. It's never just kind of like a clear, you never just go straight to the top of the, I can't say never. My journey didn't go straight to the top. Every step required something different, and when I offered that something different, I moved on to the next step, and then before you know it, you're just kind of like, oh, people are literally wanting to take pictures with me.
Man, you just dropped the bar. I don't know if they didn't catch that, man, forget all that. If they didn't catch that, wow. I think we should just drop it right there. Let's just end it right there. Tell the people where they can find you, social media, website.
Absolutely.
All
right. So you can find me on my website, www.chefdarthur.com. Darthur is DARTHUR. Instagram, I am chef_Darthur, and I'm pretty active on Instagram, so you can find a lot of my just cooking videos and me just being silly on there. Those are the two primary places that you can catch me. And if you go to my website or Instagram, it'll link you to several different ways to get a hold of me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Y'all go book my boy Devin. Don't be cheap. He is worth every single penny.
Don't be cheap.
Don't be cheap, because he be cooking the delicious thing. I don't know if y'all, as soon as you go to his page, you're going to see all the things that you don't even know is possible. And you're like, I don't even know that combination of stuff. So, man, I appreciate you so much for coming to do this, being our first guest.
That makes me happy. I didn't know I was first.
You the first one. I don't know if you can top that, because that was good.
Well, cheers to the podcast, and that somebody will top it.
Sir. Man, thank you so much. So go follow the boy, Chef Darthur, celebrity chef, not aspiring chef. Follow him on his journey. Please share this with somebody who's not just an aspiring chef, but an aspiring dream chaser. As he said, I'm going to steal that tagline, by the way. Healthy disregard for the impossible.
Whether you're trying to become a lawyer or sing or whatever your thing is, if you have a dream and you believe it's supposed to happen, make it happen, and don't stop until it does.
Well, until next time, we'll see you guys next week.